probably feel better than I do.
Okay, so Unit 7, group quiz, starting with page 1. When you are simplifying these, and a huge thing of this unit is being able to factor. So hopefully you guys are okay with factoring. Take these as 2 separate problems. So we start with the top, and you always check for what first when you're factoring?
GCF.
Good. So my GCF is a 4. So I take out a 4 and I'm left with x squared minus 4. Then you check if you can factor further. Whenever you have 2 terms and a minus sign, you want to check if they are difference of 2 squares. And in this case, they are. So that factors to be what?
X plus 2 and X minus 2.
Perfect. Okay, so the top is factored as far as it can go. Now we go to the denominator. Can that be factored?
Well,
No. Okay, so I have 2 minus x on the bottom. Now what you need to check is, excuse me, is 2 minus x and x minus 2, are those the same thing? No, but is there a way of making them the same? Very good. If you take out a negative 1, so if we just take a negative 1 out, that means we would change these signs. And it'd make this a negative 2 and a positive x. Now if you check, are these the same? See how both of the 2's are negative and both of the x's are positive? So they are the same, which means I can... Exactly. So these can cancel out. But don't forget that you have that negative. The negative can go up with a 4 though, so my answer is a negative 4 parentheses x plus 2. Questions on number 1 before we move forward?
So you always pull a negative 1.
Yes, if it's like opposite signs.
And you want to make the same as the 5.
Yes. Okay? Only if they're opposite signs. Okay? Any other questions on 1? All right, number 2. Again, look at these as separate problems. So, on the top, always check for what first?
GCF.
Is there a GCF?
2.
Good.
X.
Very good. 2x is correct. We take out a 2x and then we are left with x squared plus x minus 2. So now this is a trinomial. If you want to make your diamond, you can. Or hopefully you can start moving away from that. We know that you're going to have 2 parentheses, right? What's going to be in the front of both the parentheses? X. So now we're checking. This is really a positive 1. So what adds to be 1 and multiplies to be negative 2? Plus 2 and a minus 1 is correct. So if you put 2 and negative 1 together, you get a positive 1. And if you multiply them together, you get a negative 2. Now we move to our denominator. Always check for what first? Is there a GCF? Yes, we can take out a x. And we're left with x squared minus 5x minus 14. Okay, so now we are doing the same thing. That is a trinomial. We are going to factor it. So we're going to make 2 parentheses. What's going to be in front of the both of the parentheses? X. And we're trying to find what multiplies to be negative 14 and what adds to be negative 5. Good. A negative 7 and a positive 2. Okay. If we double check that, those do add to make negative 5 and multiply to be negative 14. Now that we have everything factored, is there anything that matches that I can cross cancel? X plus 2, is this correct? Do we see anything else? Good, these x's in front. Don't forget about your front numbers. Those cancel. Nothing else does, so on the top I have 2 times x minus 1 over x minus 7. Questions there? All right, moving on to number 3. Again, we are factoring, okay? Always check for what first? What's the GCF on the top? So look at them. Okay, so we can take out a 3. You have an x cubed, an x squared, and an x, so that means I can take out a x. And then we have a y squared, y cubed, so I can take out a y. Okay. So when we go through and reduce, and if you get confused by this at all, right under each of these, 3xy, 3xy. It helps you visually see things a little better when you actually show your work. So on the first one, the 3's cancel and the y's cancel, and then the x cancels, and you're left with x squared. Here, 3 goes into 12 4 times. One of the x's cancel, one of the y's cancel, so we're left with 4xy. The last one, 3 goes into 12 4 times. The x's cancel, and then one of the y's cancels, so I'm left with 4y squared. Okay, can this be factored further? So we're looking, this is a trinomial. You're seeing what adds to be 4 and what multiplies to be 4. Is there a number that adds to be 4 and multiplies to be 4? Good. So I'm going to write this over here. So I have 3xy. I'm making my 2 parentheses, right, Alistair? X squared is in the front, so I split up the x's in the front. What's in the back? Y squared. So you have to split the y's and the back. And then you guys told me that what numbers were? A positive 2 and a positive 2. Those numbers add to be 4, multiply to be 4. Okay, so that is done being factored. So now we go to our denominator. So looking between 6 and 12, is there a GCF? There's a 6. Then we have x cubed and x squared, so we can take out a x squared. And we have a y and a y squared, so we can take out a y. Good. When I divide these by 6x squared y, here the 6's cancel. X squared cancels with x cubed, and you just have an x. And the y's cancel. So I just have x. Plus here, 12 divided by 6 makes a 2. X squareds cancel, and then the y with the y squared just leaves a y. So we have 2y. Can that be factored any further? No. So that's the denominator. I have 6x squared y times x plus 2y. Do we see anything that cancels? Good. X plus 2y. 3 and 6 becomes 2. Good. The x cancels, and we're left with an x, and both of the y's cancel. So on the top we have x plus 2y, and the denominator I have 2x, and that is our answer. Questions on example 3?
How do you get an x? Like 2x?
Right here. So if you looked at our numbers, see like the numbers that we took out of for the GCF there in front? So 3 goes into 6, which gave me that 2. And then see how this is 1x with this x squared? So this x canceled, and you were left with an x on the bottom. Do you see that now? Okay. Other questions? No? Okay. Example 4. Okay, looking at the top. Is there a GCF in the whole problem? No. But when you have 4 terms, what do we end up doing? Grouping. So we take our first 2 and our last 2 to group them. In the first group, what is my GCF? X squared is correct. So we take out x squared, and we're left with x minus 5. In our second group, what am I going to take out? A negative 3. Good, because we want it to end up being x minus 5. If we divide each of these by negative 3, the negative 3's cancel out, and you're left with x, and 15 divided by negative 3 makes a negative 5. The whole purpose is that these parentheses match, right? So now we are taking out an x minus 5. Do we have 2 x minus 5s? No. We're taking out 1. Okay, because this is a minus in between. So this is like 2 terms right now. And we are taking out an x minus 5, and we're left with x squared minus 3. So that is what my top factor to be. Now we go to our denominator, and we have a trinomial. Okay, so we make our 2 parentheses. What will go in the front on both of those? An x. And then what multiplies to be negative 8 and adds, or multiplies to be positive 15 and adds to be negative 8? Very good. Negative 3 and negative 5. Those add to make negative 8, but multiply to be positive 15. What can be canceled on this? X minus 5s. Can these be canceled? No. Whenever you have pluses or minuses in between It has to be exactly the same. This is x squared, this is x. They are not the same, so that's our answer. X squared minus 3 over x minus 3. Questions on 4. Okay, example 5. This time, basically, we have 4 separate problems. Take each one separately. So we're going to start here with this top left. What can I take out there? 3. So we have 3, and then I have x minus 2. The denominator, what can I do?
X plus 2 and x minus 2.
Very good. X plus 2, x minus 2, because that is a difference of squares. Okay, it's multiplying. Okay, what am I going to do on the top over here?
Bottoms or
Yes, bottoms up, over, under. So I'm going to go over by 3, and I'm going to do this one kind of to the side before I write it over here. So I have x squared plus 4x minus 12. What does that factor now to be? Good, x plus 6 and x minus 2. But since I went over by 3, I need to go under by 3. Don't forget that. And reduce. Can 6 over 3 reduce? Yes. So that becomes x plus 2. Very good. 2/3. Can that reduce? So that's when we bring our bottoms up and we get 3x minus 2. Okay. Now we have the bottom. Is there a GCF there? What can we take out? We can take out an x, and we're left with 9x squared minus 4. Can that be factored further? Yes, what is that? Difference of squares, because 9 is 3 squared and 4 is 2 squared. So that's a difference of squares. So we end up with 3x minus 2 and 3x plus 2. Now we check to see if there are any like terms. 3x minus 2s are correct. X plus 2s, x minus 2s. Nothing else. So we have 3 on the top and x times 3x plus 2 in the denominator.